Leadership isn't given, it's built. Every team, every championship, every legacy starts with a vision, but sustaining it, that's where the real work begins. From the locker room to the boardroom, the same principles apply: resilience, strategy, and the ability to empower those around you. Title IX changed the game, but leadership ensures we keep winning. Let's break down what it takes to create cultures of excellence that last. And today, we're joined by someone who has dedicated her life to building and sustaining that culture of excellence, Dr. Karen Hall. A powerhouse in collegiate athletics, leadership, and team building, Dr. Hall has worn many hats, from standout basketball player to esteemed educator, ESPN 3 analyst, and champion for equity in sports. Her impact spans far beyond the court, as she has been instrumental in shaping the conversation around Title IX, leadership development, and what it truly takes to build winning teams. She's a 6-time Basketball Hall of Fame inductee, the organizer of Pittsburgh Celebrates Title IX at 50, and a respected voice on championship level leadership. Today, she's here to break it all down, share her insights, and help us all level up. Let's get into it.
Welcome to Impctrs Out Loud. I'm your host, Tracy B. Allen. Impctrs Out Loud is where social impact meets strategy, spotlighting trailblazing entrepreneurs, their challenges, and the revolutionary innovations driving real change. Each week, we dive into powerful stories, strategies, and insight to inspire and equip those passionate about making an impact through business. Hey, Impactors, and welcome to Impctrs Out Loud. Today, we have with us Dr. Karen Hall. Dr. Hall, welcome to Impctrs Out Loud.
Thank you, Tracy. Okay. Nice to be here.
Yes, nice to have you too. This is going to be an excellent conversation around leadership and just building resiliency, because a lot of times resiliency is one of the things that cut us short because we're not able to jump over the hurdles that life gives to us, right? Yeah. So, Dr. Hall, tell us about your cause story. How did you get here as the champion that you are in the collegiate sports industry today?
Well, I appreciate being here, first of all, and this is my first time with you, so I'm excited. Yeah. So the backstory, I will have to say a ball that bounced back up and down to me really began my story. And as I continued to learn how to bounce the ball with the education piece, it was the character building, and it was really, as you said, becoming resilient and being able to come adversity. So throughout the journey, there's been the highs, the lows, and the mediums, but there's been a lot of winning in life for me. And how does that happen? What I've learned in my journey has been the people that been able to be put around me, from the high school kid through the neighborhood, through moving on to college out of state. But that's a formation.
Right.
That is truly a formation that in my journey starts in the house.
Okay.
It truly starts in the home, where one, character and education is at the forefront, and respect. Right. So that was embedded in my house. It was reiterated in my schools, right, with the teachers. And then I learned that there were people who had the same mindset through the grade school, elementary, whatever you call it, high school, college, right? And I'm thinking, wow, so what is the commonality? That they have a vision for their life and how they see it happening. So, I always thought about when I'm 10, what is it going to be like when I'm 10 years later? That's 20 years old, right? Not 10. That sounds like a big number. So I was always envisioning 5 years out, plus my age, 10 years out. And then it starts to, you start on that path. So you start the path of what it feels like when you're winning, right? And you understand when it's uncomfortable, right? The feelings are different. But what has
So,
to say this, yes.
not to interrupt you, but what in your childhood made that possible? Because I don't think most 10-year-olds are thinking about what am I going to be doing at 20, right? They're just thinking about what am I going to be doing tomorrow, right?
Sure. Well,
So what is it in your childhood or your family dynamic that made you want to set goals for yourself that you were working towards on a consistent basis to achieve?
yeah, it was totally in the house because my
Mhm.
mom was so hard on us in regards to you get the education. And because she would say they can take in life, things can be taken away from you.
Mhm.
But the one thing that no one can ever take away from you is your knowledge.
Knowledge.
And then when I was in my first basketball program that I now am a leadership in,
Mhm.
again, that same conversation I heard again. Listen, Karen, they can take your car, your house, whatever, but they can never take away what you have up here. So it's
Right.
funny. So when I would play, I would look up at the sky and think, wow, what am I going to be doing in 10 years from today? Right. I would always look up, and usually when I was walking down to the court with the ball or
Mhm.
in breaks between games, that I would just think, wow, I'm 15. I'm a sophomore in high school. We're winning. I'm doing good in school. Then 10 plus 15, I'll be 25. What is
Right.
that going to look like for me? And then I would play AAU, and they asked me to keep a diary when we went to Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden. There began my career as a communicator. Like when I went to
Right.
college, because of that experience, I knew I wanted to major in communications because of those experiences.
Mhm.
Right. And then they would ask me, hey, listen, in basketball, you get interviewed, right? I
Yeah.
like that person, what they're doing. But
Really?
it aligned
Mhm.
with having to be the journalist writing that
Right.
journal when we were in Sweden for 10 days, as I think it
Mhm.
was about 15 then.
Mhm.
Right. So that's where that started. And it's been
Oh,
healthy
so
for
you
me.
went to Stockholm, Sweden when you were 15.
Yeah, when I was a kid,
Okay.
we played. It was the program that I run now. The founder talked about visionary. Oh my gosh, he didn't have electronics, but
Mhm.
nonetheless, he took a group of 15-year-old girls to play internationally. So look
Wow.
at all the lessons. You're flying abroad,
Mhm.
right? You're in this airplane for all these hours. The time,
Right.
there's just so many lessons happening. And
Mhm.
then to have a newspaper say to the founder, who do you think could keep this journal about your 10 days? And he said, Karen Hall. And I was like, sure, I'll do it. I like to
Okay.
write.
He was confident with your abilities to keep accurate records.
Yeah,
Something about what your personality made him know that, hey, we can trust her with documenting
yeah.
this process.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and really that's how that all started. The journey
Okay.
of being able to have vision about my life. Where am I headed? How am I
Mhm.
feeling like this? Uh-oh, I can feel a curve coming. Or I know I got the Midas touch right now because everything I'm touching turns to gold. Right. So
Right.
I get those feelings. So
Right.
it's been a wonderful journey, and that trueness continues this moment and on.
Mhm. So when you went to college, you said you majored in communications. Did you
Yes.
continue playing basketball
Yeah, I
throughout
went to the
college?
University of Nevada, Las Vegas. I was recruited all over the country,
Mm.
and I wanted to go west. Again, the vision, right? So
Mhm.
through playing AU, South. I live in the East, never been West, and
Mhm.
I thought, why not? Right?
Okay.
I'm being recruited all over the country. Let me go visit. I visited. It was
Mhm.
totally different than the East Coast, right? And I
Mhm.
thought, well, I can feel that I could live here, right? Because you
Okay.
got to live in that city, and I was
Mhm.
very comfortable, right? And the
Mhm.
people, the coaches, they were about high level success, and that's what I had been rooted in as a
Right.
teenager. Was
Mhm.
that there's only one way, and
Mhm.
when you get to a block, you got to find a way to get through that block. That's
Right.
what I was embedded in as a teen.
Mhm.
So going to college and finding that university and team that felt the same way,
Mhm.
that was that was it. And the UNLV, that's in Las Vegas, right? Back then, Sin City. I'm a
Mhm.
Catholic school kid from K to 12, right? So
Oh, okay.
I just knew I was not going to a Catholic university despite being recruited by Lamar. So I
Uh-huh.
totally not doing it, it just happened that way. But for me, that was great because when you're embedded like that in that culture, I had to really work on some things because when teachers said things, that was true. So that's what I believed about people. Like when I went to college, because everybody in my life up until I'm leaving at 18, whatever they said was true. So now I'm like, oh, but everything people say isn't true.
Isn't true.
Yeah. So I had to really reshape my mind about that. This isn't the culture that you've always been in.
Right.
This is life now that I'm into. And as an 18-year-old, I now have to find my path, but understand people because they're not the teachers that taught me. They're not the kids that I was around. They're like, people have different mindsets when they tell you to do things.
Right.
I had to shift it because I was embedded. I mean, that was not easy because what you said to me, I just did because you told me.
And Catholic school back in the day too was very, very strict.
Yes.
So you came from a very regimented environment going into like, hey, it's college, it's free, no parents, no priest, no none.
But I'm gonna tell you though, the one common denominator, because people would ask me, how could I go away from home like that? I had discipline. So you cannot
That's the one
do
thing
that
for
if
real
you
that you did learn
cannot
in Catholic school.
but I learned it started in my house though.
In your house, yeah.
It started from the house and it just, ventured forward. But the discipline of being able to go away from home, no matter how far, understand my purpose. It was twofold. One was education and basketball. I'm on a basketball scholarship. So I'm not out there to have a great time, but you figure out how you can, intertwine and live a great time. I did. But the true focus was being able to say no. And I learned early, no is a powerful word.
And a complete sentence.
Sometimes with the period, sometimes with the
exclamation
point.
I love it. That's what I say all the time.
Yeah. So, and I was so thankful I learned early how to say no. I say no with no problem. No problem. Yeah. But
I just told someone that yesterday. No should be my middle name.
It's even like the podcast today. I had to keep finding a way because I knew the schedule, but I'm like, StreamYard. I've never StreamYard. And you're like, go find the link I sent you. I'm like, oh my goodness. So, but you see, that's the resilient, overcoming. You have a guest, myself, that you're waiting on and expecting today. There was no way I couldn't be there because I knew. So that resilience and overcoming adversity. I'm feeling like, okay, I don't care how many emails I can go through, but I got to get there. No matter how I'm here, but I'm here.
Yeah. So you went to college, you went on a full ride for basketball, you graduated with with a communications degree. What happened next?
Yeah. So I got a job at UNLV. I wanted to stay in Las Vegas, but I got a job in our sports information office, now media relations, which is perfect. But attached to the job is the part I really wanted. That was the Lady Rebel broadcast, the Lady Rebel color analyst job. But I got the job in May because I graduated in May, but basketball season not till November. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to sit here at this computer. Like there's no more people. Like, where's my people? So I didn't stay. I flew back to Pittsburgh and got a job in our NBC affiliate as an associate sports producer. So I'm like, wow, this doesn't happen too often where you get a job in your field, like out of college. I mean, it didn't just happen like that when I came back, but it happened. And I thought, this is great. This is what I went to school for. I knew I loved it. I got to sit in the control room where they go nuts on Sundays when things don't go right. Like, another, again, eye-opening of life. Now it's profession. And then I literally fell into coaching. So now I have two passions. I got my broadcast going, but I really love basketball because when this coaching job opened in college here in Pittsburgh, I took that job and left TV. And I'm like, it fit though. It all fits. So between the first, I guess even to today, it's been basketball, broadcast, education, leadership. That's how the journey. So it was basketball because I kept coaching for over 18 to 20 years. But in that, some of my stops had the Coach Hall show. right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so there's my broadcast again. So it's
Uh-huh.
being intertwined.
In
And
media, a lot of media.
a lot of media. But
Mhm,
now I'm also able to educate young women. So now
mhm,
I got my media, my broadcast, and the education going in there. But
mhm.
unbeknownst to me, that's all leadership too.
Right.
It's all leadership.
Mhm.
So
My
after,
question is,
yeah.
'cause I'm not overly knowledgeable on women's basketball, but
Mhm.
when you graduated from college, did they have the National Women's League at that time?
No, no,
No.
it was
Okay.
all overseas at that time. And in my
Okay.
mind, the vision,
Mhm,
by the time I was a junior, I said I want to trade my tennis shoes or
mhm,
sneakers
mhm.
for the microphone. So see, I was
Okay.
already setting up in my brain, what
Got
do I
you.
want to do next? Like I can't wait till I'm a senior to figure it out.
Mhm.
So I figured that out. So I said, okay, so that meant I'm not going overseas.
Okay.
Right?
Got you.
That's what it meant. Because I didn't
Mhm,
want to. I wanted to trade my tennis shoes, sneakers for my
mhm.
microphone.
For your microphone.
Yeah, and it
Okay.
happened. Yeah.
All right. So you did all of the coaching. You worked in various areas of broadcast and had many different shows.
Yeah.
Um, what specifically did you find as a need? Because you went back home to Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So in your area, outside of the Catholic school setting
Mhm.
now, what
Mhm.
did you find as a need in your community for what you did, and how did you take your knowledge and your experience and help to transform the young ladies in your community?
Yeah, so I seen a need for kids needing I don't like to say role models, but leaders,
Mhm,
like people who kind of had it themselves together, sort of, or it looked like they did,
mhm.
and were kids. And the basketball helps because I'm a recruiter now, right? I have that
Okay.
recruiting skill, so
Mhm,
now I can see, they have what it takes, but then they're missing people to push them. They're pushing people to help them with their character. You can't just say that, right? That's
mhm.
in my mind. I'm thinking, honey, we can't do that, right? Because
Okay.
I did men and women, and
Mhm,
I thought to myself, well, hey, you're a strong personality,
mhm,
right? And I can say hello and approach, right?
mhm.
So that's what I started doing, like in my community, in the schools, because I actually taught for 8 years,
Oh,
right?
you did?
Yeah, yeah, that's the education piece though.
Okay.
And guess where I taught? Back in the Catholic school. How about that?
Really?
How about that one? That's how it
Okay.
goes.
What subject area?
I did physical education and
Physical
health.
education.
But
Okay.
it fit, right? But I had
Mhm,
opportunity now to shape. Like the
mhm,
way they had shaped me, now I get to shape minds,
mhm.
right? And I was an athletic director in those schools. So
Okay.
I had my finger on
Mhm,
kids, right?
mhm,
And I used that opportunity, that space of leadership that I didn't look at as that space of leadership then,
mhm.
to shape and help guide. Like you cannot play your whole life. So I need you to start thinking about what else you like to do.
Right.
Right? That's what I would say to kids. You want to
Mhm,
go to NBA, great. So what happens if you don't get there? Now
mhm,
what? Right? So I would say, our homes are different. So despite our homes, you still have an opportunity to decide which path do you want to go down. That's what I would
mhm.
say to kids, right?
Right, but having an educational background as well, it's not that easy to help kids to reshape their minds because you're only seeing them for a specific time of day, maybe an hour, 2 hours, or whatever. They have the noise at home that
Mm-hmm.
is embedded in them. Like,
Yep.
how are you breaking through that barrier?
Yeah, so I'm very consistent in who I
Okay.
am. And
Hmm.
when they did great, I tell them. When they did not, come see Coach Hall for a minute. And then
Hmm.
I would say, kids like, and I didn't do it too often because it was a time where your parents could snatch you up. But so kids like to talk back. So I would say
Right.
to kids, okay, so let me see. You have about a half a second to decide how old you want to be, because then
Hmm.
I get to based on your decision how I can respond to you.
Hmm.
So like if you're 10, take a minute to see if you want to be 10 or 20, because that's a different conversation.
Hmm.
If you're 12, take a minute to see if you want to be 12 or 22, because
Hmm.
that's a different conversation. So
Hmm.
then they would say, well, I think I'd better say 12, right? Yeah.
Uh-huh.
But it's funny because You know how I know it works? Because I didn't know it was working, but when they see me today, Coach Hall, Coach Hall. And these are kids that I know I was hard on them. And I'm like, they'll never speak to me again in life, but they won't ever forget me.
Right.
So that's all, because that's what happened to me. Right? That's what I had, those people along my journey. Right? So a lot of them shaped me. So I have them in me. Right? Coaches,
Right.
community, teachers, the whole teammates, because I'm just watching people. So I'm made up of all of them, right? So now it's my turn, because I believe our purpose in life is not to serve ourselves, but to serve other people, right? So since I understand that, that is what I'm here for. So like I said, though, I said it must have worked because they speak to me.
But you are right though, because sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you can't really tell if you're truly making impact because they seem like they hate you,
Yes.
right? Like
Yes.
they see you and they give you the stink eye, right?
Yes, for sure.
And it's not until they grow up and they're adults and then they reach out to you on Facebook or they see you somewhere and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't, they want to hug you, they want to
Yes.
tell you all about their lives, and you're like,
Yeah.
you didn't like me.
I know. And I would say, you
And
know
they're
what?
like, no, you were hard on me. And that's
Yes.
why I resented you. But I
Yeah.
understand now that you were hard on me because you wanted the best for me,
Right.
you know?
Right.
So it shows maturity in them too. And
Yeah.
then it makes you feel good because you're like, okay, well, I did a good thing, you know?
I would say to them, I said, I sure liked you better at 23 than I did at 13.
Then at 12. Yeah, you know, sometimes you just have to give people a chance to grow up and see what life is really about. Some of them, that turn comes when they become parents
Yep.
themselves,
Yeah.
or when they have to go out and really work for,
Yeah.
you know, a living, you know. So yeah, I get it.
Yes. Yes.
You mentioned that you had taken over an organization that you were a part of
Yeah.
when you were a teenager. Tell us about that organization and what it does.
Yeah. So the name of it is Ozanam. 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 So this was the organization that I took my first plane ride with.
Okay.
Right. So playing AAU basketball, which was a bit different then than it is now. It was all my cultural exchanges where my teammates, we all came from different sectors of life and styles and the whole bit. So now I'm getting to meet people from all over, right? This is the same organization that took me abroad. So the life is expanding, the exposure, and it was education based. So today I'm an assistant executive director. This is 57 years later.
Wow.
How about that?
That's full circle.
Full circle. Full circle. But it's all about the visionary, the founder. Because like I said, to have a vision and a foundation that was so rooted and sturdy and strong that in our state of Pennsylvania, city of Pittsburgh, if you grew up, you came through Ozanam, because there was this summer league that was world renowned, basically, because we have a shirt. And if we walk through airports, people our age now, hey, and when we did AU, they remember the name. So, but for the visionary to see that exposure can blast the kid's brain apart and really give them something different to look at, something different to see and reach at. Just to have someone, if you're urban, suburban, and you're now teammates, like we're 16, you drive this convertible, I don't even have my license. You can come into the hood and pick me up and you can take me into your suburban world. That is such a lesson that you cannot get that in school. And if you go over to homes, they sit at the dinner table and you guys eat on the run. If you don't see that, now you're seeing something that you don't know. So that is literally full circle what we do today. So I was back in Pittsburgh maybe around 2013, all my coaching and everything. And I went right back to Ozanam because, hey, that is literally home. But to see these generations of kids that we put through, it's ridiculous. Like we say about them what they were saying about us. It is. And I was just telling Darrell Porter, he played at the University of Pittsburgh. He stayed at home and we both came to Ozanam. And I said to him yesterday, we had a bunch of, we do skill development. So we had some like 8-year-old and unders. And I said, look at them. They're the next generation that we're about to bring up.
Right.
And then we had some middle schoolers. I don't know what you call them, grade schoolers, but they were like 10 to 13. And they're like the generation now. But the exposure that we present by taking these kids outside of their communities, just even in the city of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Right. The landmarks of the Black history that is rich in our city. Right. Taking them to the universities around our city that they may not ever even think to step on. Not just the gyms, like the campus tour.
Okay.
And then we take them outside of the state. If we don't, some may have never been moved to the turnpike. Like you didn't even know what the turnpike.
Really?
Yeah. So that's what we do. Exposure and education. Exposure to people and education in every sense of tutoring from school, and then the education lesson that you get outside the classroom.
Okay. And how are you guys getting support for this? Is it through the community grants?
Yeah, it's through community grants, alumni foundations. We've literally taken the same system that we grew up, and we've just expanded it because of technology.
Okay.
Like technology has been our greatest asset because, like I said, I don't know how our founder did it with just a typewriter and a telephone. I mean,
it was what it was back then, I guess.
We press send and it goes everywhere we needed to go.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even know if they had fax. I don't remember, but
I think fax came in like in the late 80s.
Okay.
In the 80s. I think that's when it kind of went mainstream, was like in the 80s. And then before we knew it, in the 90s, we had, late 80s too, we had internet. And then
the
everything just
pagers
exploded from that. Yeah.
So we're like, well, however he did it a great job because the foundation is heavy. Everyone knows in our city, like you say Ozanam, you turn, right? Or hey, I played or I worked in, because you didn't necessarily have to play in it to be in it. Like it was an arts, like there was an arts component to it as well. So the education, arts, and basketball, sports component. So there was a lot of different enrichment for kids. Yes.
Okay. I know you were inducted to the Basketball Hall of Fame 6 times. Tell us about
that. Yeah. So that's amazing, right? And this is like, I'm not in the Tennessee Hall of Fame yet. I'm working on that. And literally right now, I'm waiting to hear if I will be one of the inductees into the state of Pennsylvania Hall of Fame.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
Like, so that we should know any time now. So I'm keeping the fingers and toes crossed.
Fingers crossed for you. Yeah.
Yes. But I say if it's meant to be, it's already done.
Right.
But, so most of the Hall of Fames are local. So they're local Hall of Fames. It's the Western Pennsylvania chapter, the Western Pennsylvania chapter, the Sports Hall of Fame. Then that was one, and then they had the Western Pennsylvania Girls Hall of Fame, right? And then they had Community Hall of Fame where I grew up in. So my jersey, my high school jerseys, is literally hanging from the rafters. That is insane. That is insane. So I'm in the governing body of high school Hall of Fame because our team was like Super 25 USA Today. We won a state championship undefeated. Literally, we're still in a state of Pennsylvania. The girls team, we're still the top because we won 34-0. So no one's won a state championship 34-0. Like they didn't tie us at 34 or play 35 games and didn't lose. So I'm really proud about that. So it's the basketball career. I put in the time, right? I put in the work. Right. So when these things happen, and I say to people, when you put in the work, good things should happen. But you
reap the reward.
You reap the rewards, but you keep doing it anyway if nothing comes, because then you're consistent about who you are.
Right.
Right. So you don't do them for the rewards. They just happen to come.
I think a lot of people get disappointed and disenchanted when they're doing something. I find because to be honest, we live in a microwave society, right? And so people want instant gratification. They don't want to wait. They don't want to play the long game. Everybody wants something and they want it now. So
Yeah.
if they start doing something and they're not seeing some type of positive reward from that activity in, I'll give it 4 weeks. They're done. They're moving on, right? Because they want accolades behind it. And that's where the resiliency comes in, as you said, is to keep pushing forward
Yeah.
because you have to have the right mentality for what you're doing. Are you just doing it for the accolades, or are you doing it because you actually want to create impact?
Yeah, you know are you familiar with the transfer portal in athletics?
No, I'm not.
Well, the transfer portal, it originally was started because head coaches would get jobs and
Mm-hmm.
leave, but they would recruit kids, and the kids couldn't leave. And then if they left, they'd be penalized to sit for a year. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yes, I've heard of it. Yes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
So now the portal allows a kid to leave this school X, to go to school Y.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But what that has done,
Mm-hmm.
it's created a popcorn mechanism. To your point about,
Mm-hmm.
oh, coach is hard over here, I need to
Mm-hmm.
go to this school. I
Okay.
don't get a lot of playing time here, but
Mm-hmm.
they'll give me a lot. I'm leaving. So
Mm-hmm.
what I call it the professional portal.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'll stay in this job for 4 weeks or a month. If they don't start giving me what I want, I'm leaving.
Leaving.
I'm going over here. And if they
Mm-hmm.
don't give it to me in 2 months, then I'm leaving. See,
Got
I call
you.
that the professional portal
Mm-hmm.
because in my view of life, I see that as quitting.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's the quit mechanism. Quitting is a habit, just like winning is a habit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And if you start with 4 weeks didn't happen, I'm leaving.
Mm-hmm.
2 months didn't happen, I'm leaving. You're creating a pattern and a habit for
Mm-hmm.
yourself. You're replacing those resilient, right, skills with, okay, well, I'm going over here, the instant gratification.
Right.
Literally, unless your mom and dad's gonna say how great you are every day, you're not gonna get that gratification.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen. It's not
Yeah.
gonna
I
happen.
think
So,
that started when we started giving everybody a trophy.
trophy, absolutely
You
crazy,
know, you get a trophy, you get a trophy, you get a trophy, and you didn't do anything. So we
right?
made people feel that they should be rewarded for mediocrity.
Yeah, for nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you sat on the bench, you were probably mad at some point in your head. You're thinking things, and you're not even, applauding or being a good teammate. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so that your parents aren't mad, here's a trophy.
Right.
Well, the where I grew up, you got cut.
Mm-hmm.
Because why sit on the bench when you know, if your coach, that you can't use this person, or you
Right.
offer them to be a manager or a scorekeeper, keep them
Mm-hmm.
around the game. But today, if we're not patting people on the back, they're like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
no. I got to go where somebody's patting me.
Right. Right.
And that is truly, life cannot sustain itself that way.
Right. It cannot. It cannot. And then it makes for, to me, weak minds, right?
Absolutely.
And the lack of tenacity to
Yeah.
push beyond
Yeah.
whatever is happening in your life.
Yeah.
You tell us about the Pittsburgh celebrates Title IX at 50. Tell me
Yeah.
about that.
Again, the visionary, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was a high school athletic director when Title IX turned 50. Okay.
Okay.
And I knew on campuses all over the country, they were celebrating Title IX turning 50.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, oh, no. I cannot allow Title IX to turn 50 and I'm not in it somehow.
Well, for
Because
those who don't know what Title IX
Okay.
is, tell us what Title IX is first.
Yeah. Title IX is a 1972 law that was signed by former President Richard Nixon that said, based on education, it's an educational law,
Mm-hmm.
right? But equality of women in school, basically, because at that time you could only get a bachelor's. That was it, right? But it trickled down into sports because women could only play, let's just go, for example, basketball half court. men could always play full court. Women could never play football, right? Or even uniforms. Like our uniforms, we wore our uniforms for 20 years and men were getting them every year. Men were playing under the bright lights. Women had to play at 3:15 in the afternoon when no one could come. Right. So it was a law that said it has to be equitable. It didn't say equal, it had to be equitable. Right. So if the men are flying charter, right, the women better be flying commercial or something. Right. If the men are getting a bus, right, not that we get a van, but we get something equitable to that Lenzer bus.
Right.
Or like that McDonald's bus that has all the bells and whistles on it. Right. So it's a law that was created to protect women from being discriminated in education and in sports. So that's what Title IX is. And then in 2022, 50 years it lasted. So my vision, I said, how can I be a part? I said, you know what? Let's make this bigger. Let's go knock on the door of the mayor. And I put it all down on paper and I submitted it. I gave them a little couple days to get back to me. They didn't. Knock, knock, knock. Didn't answer. Knock, knock, knock. They opened the door a little bit. Knock, knock, knock. They exploded the door. And they said, well, Dr. Hall, this needs to happen in our city. What do you need? I was like, whoa. I'm like, the vision exploded. They totally shared the vision. And what that means is that I created a panelist of professional women that were in sport, now in business, but they're women of sport. And we created a Title IX panel discussion for the city of Pittsburgh, which meant we invited the Pittsburgh business community, every part of the community we invited to come and be educated and really gain some awareness of the importance of Title IX. Because as I had said at the panel discussion, Title IX is everywhere, just not in sports. We're talking about equal pay. That's Title IX. We're talking about promotion of jobs. That's Title IX. So it's just not in sport, right? I say sport because I'm a sports woman, and that's what I want to use to advocate and bring awareness to. And our mayor of the city, who's still our president, Mayor Ed Gainey, he's like, Dr. Hall, we need this here. And he supported it by not only coming and introducing, but staying and being engaged in the conversation. I had women who, one was a nurse. One was a former associate athletic director and the first woman at the University of Pittsburgh to move up in that athletic chain, right? I had a woman who was the executive director of the Girls and Women in Sports Foundation here in our city. I had the first woman who was the executive director of the high school governing body. So these are women that had to use resilience. Had to say, hey, I got to get over this, right? There's a roadblock. They had to move it, right? And we had to share why Title IX is still important. So literally, we've had 3 of them. So you may not be able to see the pin. I'll bring as close as I can. It says Title IX, Building a Brighter Future. That was our 2024 Title IX motto.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was Title IX at 50 in 2022. 23, we said, where are we headed? And 24, we said, building a brighter future. And the links are on YouTube.
Okay.
You can put in Title IX at 50, right? Title IX 2022 Pittsburgh. So those links are on to be watched. And, yes.
Well, it seems like you had a full career. You're still out here helping the community to thrive and teaching them leadership skills, especially young people, teaching them leadership skills and to be resilient, because this world is not an easy world. But for our audience, if you had to leave them with 3 tips or strategies to help them navigate this world, what would that be?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for that. So the first bullet point, I would say, take a deep dive into who you are. Not just on the surface, not with just what you feel about yourself in a day. Take a deep dive. Ask yourself, what moves you? to be who you are. Like, what motivates me? What are my passions? Ask yourself, if I'm not doing this, if I'm not doing basketball, what are you doing? Right? So that would be the first thing. If I'm not the nurse, what am I doing? Right? So one, take a deep dive into yourself. Number two, surround yourself with like-minded, positive people with different personalities than yours. Those people come in all different personalities.
Right.
You got the loud ones, the quiet ones, the ones that think they know everything, but they're positive people. And learn from everyone. Right? So you may not get along with everyone, but there's something to be learned from them, either how to or how not to. Right?
Very true.
And then the last one is look at the world and ask yourself, what is my worldview? Like, what's my worldview? Because now that helps you with the direction that you're headed, right? And in the mindset of how you want to move past the point of positivity and past the point of when things get tough. Like, you got to learn how to, sometimes you just got to chip. Sometimes you got to grab. Sometimes you got to kick, fight, and whatever you need to do to move the barriers, the blocks, the people. And not everyone lasts a lifetime in your life.
That's true.
Right? There's people that come in your life for purposes. So those would be the nuggets that I share. I share those nuggets.
Those were good ones. And what makes you an impactor?
Well, one is I believe in who I am. One, if you ask me, I'm going to tell you. Right? And if you want something, I'm going to help you get it. Right? I think impact is not only the material, but it's also, like I said, with the kids that I taught. Leaving them with something about myself that they will think of. I may have been the first person to tell them no and mean no. And that may have changed something about who they are. That's truly impact. Impact is standing firmly on 2 feet, even when you're being accused of something that you didn't do. Right? You got to stand strong and you got to fight and clear some views. Right? And then the last thing that makes me an impactor, that I love to have fun. I love to have fun. And you impact, so because people see you in these boxes, right? They need to see that she does smile. Oh my gosh. And her laugh cracks me up. Right? So they need to see, and for me, that was a big part of my journey. Because again, they taught me so much about focus that in my work, I forgot how to, like, it's okay to smile. Okay, laugh. Right? But that's a maturity. Like, there's things that you got to, that's why I say take a deep dive. Right? And once you do that, people then, you bring your whole self to everyone.
Okay, awesome. So tell us what you have to offer the audience today and how they can find you and interact with you across social media or your website.
So I love LinkedIn. So please, LinkedIn, Dr. Karen Hall, send me an invite, and know in advance. I always ask when people send me an invitation, I ask, what is it about my profile that moved you to send me an invite? I want to know, like, what was it, right? So, because, like, where's the connection, right? So please LinkedIn me. I have a book that I wrote during COVID, right? COVID was good for me. It was 10 Tremendous Leadership Lessons, a guide to leadership learning, because I did 10 physical leadership workshops. So all I did was, I had content, I just put it into a book. And that could be found on Amazon as well. And it's on my LinkedIn page. I will leave you an email that if someone would like to email me, you can. It's KHLTS2024@gmail.com. I'll say it one more time. KHLTS2024@gmail.com. The LTS is my leadership training services.
Okay.
That's what that is.
Okay.
Yeah,
All
so
right.
come on, connect with me.
Okay, Dr. Hall, it was really good having you as a guest today. We learned a lot about how to overcome resiliency and just kind of stay the path, setting goals, because you've been setting goals since you were 10.
Yeah.
So setting goals and then working towards accomplishing those goals and not letting the weight of life, distract you and kick you out of the ball game,
Yeah,
basically.
if I could
So,
say one last thing, don't rest on your laurels. Like every
mhm,
laurel that came my way, my question in my mind was, okay, that's over. What's next?
mhm.
So that keeps me moving as well. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Until next time, everyone. Thank you for joining us here on Impactors Out Loud. Have a great day.